Welcome to another episode of Drinking After Dark, a podcast where we discuss random topics while having a few drinks. I'm your host, Darius, and as always, drink responsibly. And y'all make sure y'all follow Drinking After Dark podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to Drinking After Dark podcast YouTube channel. Tonight, I'm not drinking on anything tonight. I'm just drinking on some big red soda. So that's what I'm on tonight. Hope you guys had a great weekend, having a great week. Uh, been gone for a little minute, took a little break, but I'm back. So let's get talk about some things. I know some things that happened since I've been gone. Obviously the big story, Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron James. They actually had a confrontation. Um, Pretty much mid game. LeBron James rolled up on Stephen A. Smith mid game and pretty much was telling Stephen A. Smith to stop talking about his son. All right. Uh Now there's people on both sides of this. All right, people on both sides of this equation. Um you got the parent side and then you also have the athlete side of this whole thing. Pretty much just my take on all of this is that you know LeBron saw him at the Lakers game. Obviously Stephen A pretty much just signed a $100 million deal with ESPN. So I mean, congratulations, Stephen A. $100 million, I think, over the next 5 years. And sitting courtside watching the Lakers, and LeBron rolled up on him. It wasn't long-winded; it was brief. But LeBron said what he had to say to Stephen A. Um, Basically, I guess, excuse me, attacking his son and everything like that. Now you got a lot of people who look at Bronny James, right? And some people don't believe he's NBA ready or doesn't even belong in the NBA, period. Um, then you have others believe he has the potential to be in the NBA. To me, he's what 6'2", but you know in the NBA, when they say your height, that's really not your real height unless you're really that. Uh, I think he's more like just under 6'2", but extremely athletic. Guy clear he Bronny James clearly a better shooter than his dad. Uh ha- has a high IQ, but is he NBA ready in my opinion? No. And you got a lot of people who went after that. Now here's the thing. Does Stephen A needs to take some accountability for what he said? Absolutely. Let's go to uh let's go to what Stephen A said. But before that, LeBron James basically said that before Bronny even got to the league, I think this was uh his s- senior year in high school, freshman year in college. It was before he got drafted by the Lakers in the second round, late second round, I might add. Um, he basically said that LeBron basically said that Bronny James is better than half the guys in the league, which is now I understand parents always hyping up their kids, right? But we saw the same thing with LeVar Ball with Lonzo Ball. I mean, LeVar Ball basically put a target on Lonzo's back. And Lonzo, McDonald's All American, he was the number one rated point guard coming out of high school. Um, Selected number two overall, went to UCLA, you know, one and done. Usually that's how it is with basketball, one and done. And When he came into the league, the target was on his back. And let's just be honest, he really didn't produce his rookie year. I think he got better once he got out of LA, period. I think once he left LA, he went to New Orleans. I wish New Orleans would have kept him because I think he would have been great for that team. But he went to Chicago. That Chicago team was, hey, they were one of the contenders in the East, right? Until, he got hurt. I'm glad he's back playing and everything like that. But pretty much, uh, that's what happens when you put a target on your kid's back. Now you gotta remember, LeVar Ball is not, he never played NBA basketball, right? He's a father who was outspoken. Um, he he cares about his boys a lot. But sometimes you can go to a point where you could put your kid in a position that he really doesn't want to be in. And that's what happened with LeBron, with Bronny James, I believe. When you make a comment like that, now you're putting your kid in a position that he really doesn't want to be in. And then on top of that, um, you have you coming out and say you want to play with your son. So in order for that to happen, the Lakers had to take your son. Now it took him in the second round, you know, very, very late second round pick. Uh got his wish. It was just a moment. It really didn't materialize to anything. Um, it wasn't like, to me, it wasn't like a Ken Griffey Sr. and a Ken Griffey Jr. moment. Yeah, they played in the game together. Yes, absolutely. But anytime you go back and you look at the highlights of Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., I mean, come on, you saw them go back to back home runs in the majors. And then you saw another clip where Ken Griffey Jr. took a fly ball away from his dad, having fun with his dad. No, stuff like that. But you knew Ken Griffey Jr. in the majors, obviously, to me, my favorite baseball player growing up, prettiest swing in baseball, over 600 career home runs, you know, Hall of Famer. Just listen, come on, man. It's Ken Griffey Jr. But he belonged there. He proved that he belonged there. We all know nepotism happens in everywhere, right? See it in the corporate world. We see it in, I mean, we see it in sports, really. But I think the difference between LeBron James and the other fathers who played in the NBA, well, LeBron James currently is still playing in the NBA. The other fathers used to play, right? And I think a little bit was, to me, I feel like this was more about LeBron than it was about Bronny, right? Uh, but yeah, you put a target on your kid's back. And here's the thing: nobody remembers who got picked number one overall in last year's draft. Why? Because the whole draft, everybody was talking about Bronny James and him getting picked at the bottom of the draft, bottom of the second round. Okay, that's what it is. I mean, he basically is in the G League, a two-way player. Which, let's just be honest, I don't think Bronny is a two-way player. I think he needs to be in the G League full time. Let's just call it what it is, because if you're saying that he's better than the players in front of him, then why he's not in the NBA full time? That's all I'm saying, right? Uh, and a lot of people believe, a lot. I think a lot of hoopers out there, a lot of basketball fans out there are looking at Bronny and basically saying, one, you're a McDonald's All American, right? But how is this guy a McDonald's All American and he's only averaging 14 points a game his senior year in high school? overall his high school career, he averaged 12 points a game. How was he ranked top? I think he was like ranked top 25 in the country. Was it because of the team he was on, or is it the fact that he's LeBron James' son? Right? It's kind of like you start seeing like all of this stuff taking place, and a lot of people feel like, well, how is this possible? Right? Because you got guys out there, let's just be honest, you got guys out there averaging in high school, right? Probably in his class that were averaging, let's say 20, 21, 22 points per game, and they weren't even a three-star recruit. So it's kind of like, how is that possible, right? How is that possible? But anyway, this feud between Stephen A. and LeBron James, they don't really see eye to eye. A lot of times you get that with sports journalists and players. They have their beef and everything, but I think a lot of times uh, you have some players who are sensitive, and when you put your son in the situation, you have to understand your son is not a professional athlete, so he is open to criticism, right? He's open to criticism, and I mean, he deserves to be criticized if he's going to be a pro athlete. I get it. You want to protect your son, but at the same time, you put your son in the situation. I don't think that now if he made comments, if Stephen A. Smith made comments about you as a father, then yeah, you should check him, right? But you can't tell a sports writer, a sports journalist, not to talk about your son. Then what job are they doing, right? I think the problem is you got a lot of sports journalists, and I see it all the time, where they don't want to be critical of somebody because they don't want to lose that relationship, that contact. They don't want to lose that story and everything like that. Listen, just do your job, right? As long as you don't make it personal, just do your job. And Stephen A did come out and addressed it, addressing on first take. Um, it's whatever, but you saw Stephen A going, I mean, he was on Gil's Arena talking about it. Um, I mean, you had other people talk. You had Dan Patrick give his comments. Nick Wright, who was him and Shannon Sharp, I think two of the biggest LeBron lovers in sports media right now. And obviously they're biased in their assessment. I knew Nick Wright was going to be biased. That's why I didn't even bring it up. I feel like he was going to be biased regardless when it comes to LeBron. Um, but I feel like the criticism, to me, if you're going to be a pro athlete, there's a fine line between criticizing a player for what they do on the court opposed to their actions off the court. Now, sometimes their actions off the court, it they know if they did something wrong, they know they did something wrong. Okay. But on the court, I think that's where you should pretty much leave it at as a sports journalist. Never make it personal. Sometimes you saw, not gonna lie, sometimes see Stephen A. Smith, he makes it personal. You see Skip Bayless, he makes it personal. Uh, one guy that I really don't like at all, Jason Whitlock, seems like everything he makes is personal. Um, you have these sports journalists or journalists in general that kind of make it personal, right? And they have platforms. Absolutely, they have platforms to where they can speak. And if it's huge, then it's like, oh wow. And like somebody with a small platform in Clarksville, Tennessee saying something, but somebody with a national platform saying something, they're like, oh, we're gonna go with what they say, you know. So that's just my opinion. But either way it goes, it's just it's a crazy situation. But I think I see both sides. Let me see what he said. I see both sides of the story, and I believe that it is no kind of warranted as well. So, um, pretty much after let's see, this was in the LA Times. Stephen A. Smith says LeBron James confronting him was weak. I was talking about you, not Bronny. Okay. And sometimes you can do that. I mean, again, a lot of these athletes are a little sensitive, so that's excuse me, that is how it is. But I'm just gonna read just a little bit from the LA Times. So let me get there. So pretty much this is what he said on Gil Arenas podcast, right? Y'all can see it on YouTube. Um, let me see. Quote, stop talking S about my son. I said, yo, let's talk. And this comes from Stephen A. He said, yo, let's talk later. And he's like, F that. Nah, F that. You got to stop effing with my son. I said, all right, though. And he walked off. So here's the thing. Okay. You can't get mad at a journalist for now critiquing your professional athlete's son. I mean, your son is a professional athlete. He's going to deserve criticism. If he's playing in the NBA game, he's fair game, right? Now you got a lot of people talking about, well, what about the other G League players? Most G League players are not two-way players. They just in the G League full time. And it's kind of crazy though, because you look at Mac McClung, who was the leading scorer in the G League, MVP in the G League, but the only time you see him in the NBA is for the dunk contest. Why he doesn't get a call up, but Bronny does. So this is a lot of you know, a lot of criticism that's coming from all different angles, right? Once again, like I said, a lot of people don't believe that Bronny James should have been a McDonald's All-American. Um, a lot of people believe that he probably should have stayed another year in college, probably at a different school, maybe to distance himself from his father, to get away from his shadow. Um, and you got those who are, let's just be again, biased, right? They're biased. They believe that you if you already said what the type of player he's probably going to be, right? A three and deep type player. Well, at 6'2", who is he guarding? You got to understand that at 6'2", who is he guarding, right? Is he going to be like a Pat Bev type of player, right? Ferocious defense, that his intensity and everything he brings to the game is going to help that team, or how's he going to be, right? Uh, That's just how it is. Um, but he another quote from the LA Times, what Smith said on first take was, um, I'm pleading with LeBron James as a father, stop this. Stop this. We all know Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad. I mean, honestly, you kind of see truth in that, right? Because you got to say to yourself, okay, there's players that's been in the game and their fathers was in the game, right? You look at Steph Curry. Steph Curry's dad played in the NBA. But Steph Curry got there on his own merit because of what he did at Davidson. He took a small school all the way to the Elite Eight. Probably should have came out that year. He ended up going back another year, but he was still a top 10 pick. And you look at Steph Curry now, I mean, you look at him now, you like, he just hit the 4,000 uh career mark, right? In terms of three pointers made, completely changed the game of basketball. So you look at him, who else is currently Austin Rivers, Dad Doc Rivers, not only coaching in the NBA, but also played in the NBA. But Austin Rivers was the number one ranked player in high school. One of the coldest mixtapes, high school mixtapes ever, right? You add that. Uh, who else? If you watch Gil Arenas podcast, Gil's Arena, um, you see Kenyon Martin on there. His son KJ is in the NBA, but he made it on his own. You know, Dad was pretty much in the back. You know, and everything. Kenyon actually talked about this, right? Um, about yes, I'm a parent first, but sometimes you got to get put yourself out of it, and I think he's right. Who else made it who's in the NBA? Whose dad played in the NBA? I mean, you have Klay Thompson, who pretty much made a name of his own, whose dad, Michael Thompson, was the former number one overall pick in the NBA, an NBA champion with the Lakers. Uh, but Klay Thompson, lottery pick coming out of college, regarded as one of the top five greatest shooters to ever play this game, right? And earned the nickname Game Six Clay, one of the best two-way players this game has ever seen, right? Um, who else? Who else played? Who? I mean, it's so many, right? It's so many players whose dads has played in the league. And let's just be honest, some of them surpassed up their dads, and some um not quite or on the same level as their dad in terms of NBA play. Uh, I don't know if y'all remember the Grant twins, Horace and Harvey Grant. Whose son was it? I think it was the Harvey Grant son who played in the NBA. Was a solid player in the NBA, right? But he got there on his own. And you see a lot of players that, some players are just not going to live up to their parents' name, right? It just they were so great, they just not going to do it. Then you have other guys who came in without that type of pressure. In terms of uh in terms of they came in with a different type of pressure, like what they did in college, right? Like Steph Curry came in with all this pressure because what he did at college, right? You see a lot of guys pick top 10, top 15 with pressure because they are lottery picks and they have to produce pretty much seem like right away. LeBron James is one. Came in with all this hype into the NBA, 18 years old, but guess what? Surpassed everything, right? The only year he didn't make the All-Star team was his rookie year. So you have that going on. And but I think, some criticism is fair than others. It's like, all right, we get it, you know, leave the guy alone. Leave it alone. But if you put a bullseye on your son's back, this was gonna happen. You can't give the media fuel for all of this because they're gonna remember this. They're gonna remember all of this stuff, and that's what happened. Um, Also, Stephen A said, quote, Ronnie looked over at me and he had this sad look on his face. Smith said, I I'm imagining Pop saw that he it hit him and he couldn't hold it and you rolled up on me. As a father, you're gonna protect your child, regardless how old they are, they're gonna protect them. But I think to me, I feel like this could have been a great experience for um Bronny because now he's facing what his dad has been going through his whole career, and he's going to be going through the same thing. Every pro athlete in every sport is going to get criticized, right? Um, the biggest athletes is going to get criticized by the national media. sports media, but then you have your local media where, they're probably a little bit more harsh than the national media. So you have that you have that particular instance. But regardless, I think this is a great lesson for Bronny. This is also a great lesson for LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. And even Stephen A. Smith, he even admit that he done had some feuds in his career and things like that. And sometimes you just got to put it to the side. Just got to put it to the side, and because a lot of times the kids are affected. A lot of times they don't have anything to do with it. They just affected, and you start to see that big picture. So, but that's one of the things that happened while I was away. Another thing too, sticking with sports and LeBron and everything like that. Charles Barkley basically had a rant when it came to basically his future employment with ESPN. Obviously, inside the NBA is going to ESPN, and Chuck is the type of guy that's not going to hold his tongue. He's going to say what he want to say, and I guess that's freedom because you don't care if they get rid of you, whatever. But he did make this one point, and I want to say this. Now, obviously, you talk about the media and who they cover in terms of sports teams. Yes, the Lakers. Yes, the Cowboys. They always gonna be the talk. Drama is what sells. Things like that. I get it. But one thing he said that probably needs to be put to bed, and Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp need to stop this. Can we just put to bed the whole GOAT debate between Jordan and LeBron? Because the way I look at it is like this. I always say it's kind of hard to say who is the greatest in any sport, in my opinion. I mean, you could go based on stats, but in my personal opinion, it's kind of hard to say who's the greatest when you have so many greats that never played against each other, you know? And I think that's I think that Jordan is the greatest of his era, but, you know, I could personally say Jordan is the greatest of all time. That's just my opinion, but I'm not going to argue with somebody who says LeBron is the greatest. You keep bringing up the same stats over and over and over again, right? And the fact is that LeBron is, we all know he's on the Mount Rushmore. You got people that's going to debate LeBron and Jordan to the test of time until somebody else comes along, right? Until somebody else comes along. I just believe that um, this whole debate between Jordan, LeBron, to stop. None of them really have anything else to prove. Anything else to prove. I mean, I get it. LeBron just passed 50,000 career points. Um, that's regular season and postseason. Jordan has, in terms of 6 rings and 6-0 in the finals and pretty much dominated the entire 90s. In a sense, yeah, Houston Rockets won, but Jordan really wasn't playing at the time. But listen, two great players who have dominated the game in their own way. And I believe that we should just put a stop to it. No more talking. No more talking. I mean, what else LeBron gonna do that's gonna change people's minds? If you're a Jordan fan, you're gonna believe Jordan. If you're a LeBron fan, you're gonna believe LeBron. And Chuck is right. I mean, the GOAT debate should just stop. No more. No more. No more. No more. Okay, that's it. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in with me tonight. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure y'all follow Drinking After Dark podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you catch Drinking After Dark podcast on YouTube. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Appreciate all the love and support. Tell your friends and family about it. Until next time, I'm Darius from Drinking After Dark, and we out. Peace.